All right, and welcome back to the Every Dad. I'm not even going to try with what episode this is because we're so sporadic in filming now. But
July.
In July's episode.
Although it's going to debut in August.
Debut. I like it. Okay, so welcome to July's filming August debuts episode of the Every Dad. And when we left off last time, we talked about how we were going to maybe bring in some topics. That we wanted to start with parenting styles.
Yeah.
We put our heads together and came up with kind of wanted to talk about helicopter parenting in general. Of course, through some of the research, I went on a tangent in what I found, but I think we can start with that basis. And I guess what are we looking to do? I want to kind of define it.
Right. And so when you say put our heads together, we put our heads together on the topic, but we did separate independent studies.
Independent studies, yeah.
Yes, on the matter.
Research methods, but I think we start out. Maybe we can define it in see if we both agree on the definition, or at least what we found, and then maybe talk about some pros and cons or different examples of it, and maybe how to remedy it or something along that lines. Because that's kind of the rabbit hole I fell down.
Right.
So. The most basic definition that I found of it, and this was straight black and white, it just said overprotective or excessive interest in the life of their children. Now, I think that's
it's broad. Right. So I got it's similar things, but it's more you're trying to control that child's environment to an unnatural extent. So you're parenting that child, or you're looming over that child's decisions, conflicts, and battles, everything, you're answering for it. So you're not allowing them to have a real environment of any kind. You're controlling everything for them.
Like their exposure is way less. Like to the world, they know nothing more than it's like kid gloves.
Right.
So I was thinking like kind of along those lines. That's where we're going. Like. Fight their battles. When you talk about fight their battles, that doesn't necessarily mean physically, right? That's anything.
Like a child. So the clearest instance that I saw on that was like a child at a playground takes your child's toy, and then you immediately go to that child, take the toy back, and give it back to your child.
Right. And then your child thinks that's the way that the world works.
Right.
That's definitely a problem. I was, even to the point. Doing their schoolwork was another one, and I think that's into fighting their battles too. Like if the child has a problem, instead of either helping them work through it or giving them the time to work through it, you just kind of give them the answer, or in extreme cases, just take it and do it.
I say it goes from helping with homework to doing their homework for them. Like you're giving them answers versus giving them the route to get to the answer, checking that answer whether right or wrong, and then adjusting from there. So that it's doing it instead of providing the information to do it. Like that's where you override the situation.
And I don't think parents realize, just how early, when they started that early, just how long-term those effects are, because, we all have it, right? You with a pretty young child, and mine are starting to get older, but, you have that inner, want to never see them struggle with anything. Right. So you can see how someone would fall into this type of parenting, not even trying to do it in a bad way.
Right. And I have some thoughts on that one.
Go for it.
So another point that I found in my studies attributable to good old Jordan.
Hey, go for it.
Parents nowadays, like my parents were in their 20s when they had me. Your parents?
Even before their 20s.
Right. So nowadays we're having kids in our 30s. I had my kid at 32.
I was 29 when I had my first one.
Everybody's having their kids in their 30s. This is that you're a full adult versus, our parents are in their 20s. They're still growing up themselves. Thus they're like helpfully negligent.
Yeah.
Right. So that
they have lack of life experience.
So in those key development stages, they are, helpfully ignorant in the situation. Thus, you do have to figure it out yourself because there is no reference point. Now, add several more years of education and life experience to that equation. You know the answer. You think you know the answer at 30, at 30, whatever. And you want to give it to that kid instantly.
I totally agree. And I think, just as a quick side note, you were talking about our parents being young. and my mom has always worked from home, and my dad worked a ton of hours when I was young.
Right.
So like I had both my parents, but it was like a single parent household for the most. And then my sisters came along and stuff. So like my mom didn't even really have the time. I would consider my mom slightly overprotective in general. But as far as helicopter parenting, even if she wanted to, I don't think the ability was there. Some due to the fact, like what you just said, that she didn't have that life experience to go off of, but also because she had so many other things going on that like I was figuring stuff out from home. I was a young boy. I was going to get out there and make mistakes, but
I mean, that's another thing that's changed is everybody's still in the house. They're easily helicoptered, like easily loomed over because because of COVID, they're having school at home. They're playing inside. Everybody's inside, outside is dangerous and scary.
Yeah, that I totally agree with you. That I think that this whole COVID thing has probably made a bunch of new helicopter parents just because they were never around their kids that much to get themselves into that. So the next thing that I found, and I kind of want you to talk on this one because you definitely have experience, but it says helicopter parents are known for coaching the coaches.
Yes. So that's a recent development. I had a really good group the first time I did the coaching thing, and it's to the point now that I actually have it in my contracts for the kids that come on board that the parents will let the coaches coach. They do not. My players, if they have a question, they ask the coaches about the game, not look into the stands for the answer, or look in outside of the cage for the answer and things like that. I mean, in the coaching situation, especially in baseball, with the way dads can be, everybody thinks that they know a certain way. I'm usually good at conveying the experience that I have. I haven't run into a coach literally or a parent literally trying to tell me how to do what I'm doing. I have more trouble with parents answering for the kids. And that's another aspect of helicopter parenting is you don't let them answer their own questions. Preschool teacher is asking a kid a question and the mom answers the question. And I ran in that most recently. I asked all my players a very simple question with a goal in mind, by the way, but what 3 positions do you want to play? And I got I asked them a question and they go,
stares. Look for their parents to give
right at their mom, right at their parents. And these are 10 and 11-year-old boys.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be the answer. It's asking them a direct one. And I do correct them instantly. I'm like, nope, don't look at her, look at me. Like, what 3 positions do you want to play? The end goal to that was, what have you done that you think you've earned that position, earned the right or the ability to play that position?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that, like as you were talking, like the other part of the whole coaching the coaches. I think another one is like what I remember. You'd always have those parents that are just utterly upset that their kid's not getting playing time or as much playing time as other kids. And, they could not understand that if your kid puts in more work or, develops better at this or that they will see that playing time. It was just expected. And then they would, once again, fight that battle instead of going to their kid and saying, hey, you need to get better. You need to work harder. You need to practice more. Don't worry about it. Mommy or daddy will take care of it. And, that can really be.
Well, tough. And that the rec ball state is dying in this country. Like, rec ball is hard to get kids to come out for nowadays because travel ball and club teams and things like that are taking over. A lot of the reason is in rec ball, they have built-in playing time because it's involve everybody type of sport.
Yeah.
Parents don't see past the fact that their kids are getting exposure to the game in practices, in supporting their teammates and things like that, and instilling that want to be on the field when they're not, when they haven't made it or they haven't earned their spot.
Yeah.
Because of talent or whatever. But they don't see that value. They just see that's not fair that he's getting more playing time than my son. My son was also at practice.
Right. I mean, and seriously, then they start hovering over. So this one was big to me because I'm, utterly a general at the house when it comes to cleaning. And it said being a maid in your own house. And I think that one really hit home with me because I am constantly reminding my daughter pick this up, pick that up, because she likes to leave a mess here, leave a mess there. I refuse to do it. And this is I liked reading this because it kind of helped me see that maybe it put me one step further away from being a helicopter parent, which is what I'm trying to avoid, because I'm sure in some cases we all have a tendency. But at least in this aspect, I know I'm good. Like, I will make my kids clean up one mess before they make up another mess. But all too often, this is one place my mom, I can constantly remember, is horrible for this. My mom, to this day, if she comes to my house and plays with my kids, I could see her basically with a dustpan and broom, like right behind her. And I'm like, that's not the way it works, Mom. It doesn't work like that in my house now. So I don't know what your take. Your daughter's still kind of young to pick up for herself.
Right, but she's getting there. Like we have been trying to instill that, but she can't grasp it all the time. But right, I like that approach. Before they start another activity, you see that veer of attention going away from a mess that they've made, then that behavior is corrected. That behavior is refused, then boringness happens.
I pretty much told, Madison, I pretty much say, I don't care if you make the biggest mess known to man, as long as you clean it up before you make the second one. Like, that's all I care about. And then there's certain rooms in the house I prefer her not mess up. She's got a bonus room, a bedroom, some places to play, which that's another fight we have, because I usually come home and my son has built a highway in the living room, and I just look at my wife and I'm like, why? Why? He can have a few toys, but he's got 30 other rooms. Come on now. So
I feel about flies.
There's
a fly in my car. He has the whole world.
Why is he here? Yeah. Why is he here? Also, you probably see this too, but you either you can't or you won't let them fail. Like, how do you learn anymore if you don't fail?
I found that ambiguous in wording. I did see that a lot. It's like, what do you mean by fail?
Okay, I get it. I think the word fail is ambiguous. I get that. But
right. So what I see is like an AP class or something. In your child's getting close to that realm of either they don't need to take the AP class the next year because they're about to fail this one or whatever. That parent is up at the teacher's ear, asking them why they're treating their kid differently, or asking for more work, or asking for special treatment for that kid. I assume that that's what they're talking about, or
I thought it meant it like just general activities,
or making excuses for them. Like, for instance, you didn't make the team because the coach doesn't like you. Or,
I didn't even think of that approach. I thought more of it in the black and white. Like, if they are going out for a team and they didn't make it or they're not going to make it, mom just takes them out for ice cream and we don't go back. Like, there is no letting them see what it feels like to have failed.
Right. Well, I mean, in that part, that kid's going to wonder why they weren't playing for that team. So I think that's when what I'm saying comes in.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they didn't like you, or it's because of something else.
Well, they just straight up lie. It's like, oh, they already had too many kids, or something like that.
Something like that.
But shielding them from the stain of knowing what that feels like, because you're never going to want to push harder to get better if you always fall on a pillow as opposed to a hard floor.
Excuse.
Right? You have to. So that was kind of, without getting too specific into examples, that's what I found there. But I also found there was actually a pros and cons list, slight pro and cons list for it. One of the pros is says that these kids get into less trouble. And once again, that's ambiguous too, simply because they're only getting...
The kids get in less trouble. The extreme consequences of a helicopter parent is like, I got up here, narcissism, poor adjustment as an adult, alcohol and drug use.
Yep, that's what I got.
Like that's so less trouble as as a child,
right,
or adolescent, and then they get into a situation where they're having struggles with employment, or they're having struggles with what to do or not to, and you're not there to correct them on their decision making.
Yeah.
And they go down a wrong path very easily because they're very easily swayed because they've seen little resistance to that.
That's exactly where what I was thinking when you say less trouble. Well, it's less trouble because you are absolutely monitoring every little thing they do. But the second they get out and have to make decisions or something on their own and you're not there, there's zero way that they can maintain that because they've never had to do anything on their own. I mean, imagine when they have to pay bills. You know, I mean, something as I say simple as that, but I mean, like it takes no real brain power to say I bought something, I have to pay money for it, right? But I mean, how hard is that? And they're the ones that start stealing, getting into that kind of stuff. Also, not as independent, right? That's going along those same lines, because if you've never had to be independent, you can't just, okay, I'm 18 today. Now, now I am.
Yeah.
So,
I've got one that it's overprotection by overproviding. That stems.
Is that like spoiling, you mean?
Right, but it's like, for instance, most of our parents having us when they were very young. I hit both sides of the spectrum. As my parents, I was the son of an electrician and a mom that didn't work for a long time, and then she became a dental hygienist. We weren't exactly, well off for a lot of my childhood, and then my dad got a better job, my mom got a better job, and that all changed. And then, but because of the previous 11 years of my life, I didn't ask for things that were out of bounds. Like I appreciated what I had and didn't ask for things that were out of bounds. Now, I think where it comes in is like you have somebody that's brought up in a less fortunate situation. They find some success, they have a child, and they want that child to want for nothing.
Right.
And thus they get everything they ask for. There is no resistance. There's no line drawn. There's no, there's no boundaries in what they can ask for or what they're being provided with. Thus, when they do get out on their own, away from mom and dad, which nowadays is not 18, it's 25.
No, sure.
And they don't get what they want. They either run back to mommy or daddy until they're 30, 40, 50 years old, or they do what? Or we have depression and anxiety that falls into it.
And I think as a parent, you're kind of in the gray area there too. You're talking about the over providing, because we all, right, like the definition of parenting is wanting better for your kids than what you had. I mean, but you can do that in ways other than just satisfying every need, especially materially. Yep, that's what I'm saying. Like, you can be involved in every aspect of Reagan's sporting stuff, and see to it that she has the best of that, the best support from you, the best coach, whatever it is, and that is providing immaterially, because you're providing her with your time, with your love, with your guidance, and those are things I think you can never give too much of. That you have to let them fail to avoid this helicopter issue, but by always being there for them, someone to talk to, and always being there to offer whatever guidance you can.
There's got to be a goal structure. Like, for instance, let's say she plays softball.
Mm-hmm.
I want a new glove. What are you going to do for that?
Sure. Earn it, right?
Right.
You got to instill that early.
Make a new team, make a higher team, even like you could even go within the sport. So there's batting averages, there's strikeout statistics, OPS, and all that good stuff. You can have a goal. They have to earn what it is. It's not like, I want a new glove. Oh, here.
Sure. It shouldn't be that easy. Exactly. I noticed you had done some research on some of the generations and what is like you have the ages right there, but I also was looking at their generation Alpha is what it is now. That's the people born 2010 till now. You got the Gen X's, which were the mid 60s to the early 80s, Gen Z's, and here's where they said the helicopter parenting really started coming in millennials and Gen Z's. Like Gen Z's where they really started being helicoptered, but millennials, which is where we fall into. So I wonder why that is.
I think it's the death of the trade industry. Everybody goes to college, right? So you think of our parents. Both of my parents came from very hardworking. My dad was the son of an electrician that had to travel all over the freaking nation to find work. My grandmother worked in banks and things like that. I said they were poor by any means, but they had parents that worked very, 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 very hard to provide for their kids. And they were also, my dad was one of two. My mother was one of like 4 or 5. So they had a lot of siblings to compete with. And provide for and share the provided things for. When they had kids, they had kids young, they had us. They followed their parents' footsteps. They worked, and then this college thing came out. It's like, this is how you get a better life, right?
Yeah, that was preached for a long time.
Right, this is how you get a better life. And they see their friends that had gone to college, the little exceptions in their little tiny towns that had gotten college degrees that are more well off or anything like that. Millennials hit, and that's now, we were preached that so hard that you go to school. When you leave high school, if you remember going to high school, everybody that you talked to had plans to go to college almost.
Right, or military, stuff like that. But yeah, there was a ton with college, absolutely.
Yeah, like almost everybody that I knew from the town that I was in wanted to go to college, or college plans of whatever. They were going to be this thing that saves the world. That was supposed to provide you with an easy shot to a good life, not that constant grind. Well, now we're shifting back into that work experience world.
Absolutely, because we ran out of them.
Right.
For that exact reason, which is what I was thinking. I think as things got easier, more instant, more accessible, technology got better, right? You didn't have to work as hard or search as hard for what it is that you wanted. And as that happened, people became so used to that, and they just wanted it quicker, better, faster, all that stuff. And you ran out of this. And then so people, I use the term weaker, and you know what I mean by that, but like weaker in all aspects. Like we didn't parent, or we didn't parent the way our parents parented us, and so on and so forth. And that's why we're all the way to the level of this overprotective now, like, as each generation got weaker and weaker, now we want our kids in bubble wrap, as the term I use.
Anti-competition, yeah. Like you don't want your kids to fight anything, whether it be the literal environment or whether it be a child at school, whether it be a conflict with the teacher. You don't want them to fight or compete with anything, because they could fail. Yeah,
and apparently, in the eyes of a helicopter parent, that
means that you failed.
It's the worst thing that could happen, right? I mean, it's kind of a little bit of self, mirror, like seeing yourself in them and reliving through
Edification.
them. Sure.
Word of the day.
I like it.
Edification.
Edificate. Is that start with an E? You're just don't.
It's an E, but I don't know how to spell it.
I bet you'll spell it. Put it right here. So did you find any? I found it interesting because I had no idea. I'd heard the term helicopter parent, right? I'd heard it. Mm-hmm. We'd all heard it, and it was kind of cool to go down this rabbit hole and see all this stuff. But there are a ton of different parenting styles.
Well, I know, and that's why we're doing this series.
It's just hilarious to me. Because
I'm about to graduate with a psychology degree, so I know that a ton of crap exists. So when we mentioned that, I was like, this will be a fun little road.
I'm curious. I mean, I don't know if you'd like to do another video that counters this, or where you'd like to go with it. Because I wrote down these other ones with just some basic stuff, and I don't know how far you want to dive into them.
I'd like to hit our opinions on it, and then I'd like to kind of compare it to some, like, you can find something in almost all these styles that you can relate to.
Sure.
I'd like to explore that, and then I would like just kind of explore how you defeat helicopter parenting or whatever parenting style if it's negative.
Well,
if it's not, then you have to see, like, I can take this, and try to apply it to my own life.
Well, I did write down some remedies that I found. They called them remedies, and this is as far as you talking with a helicopter parent and ways for you to approach the subject or try and help them out.
Yeah.
The first said understanding motivation, and I think we've kind of
understanding the parents' motivation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think we've kind of talked about that, exactly why. But then they're talking about find ways to educate them about the effects, and I think that would be very important too, right? Because we've talked about some of these effects can get.
That'd be rough.
Well,
that'd be a rough conversation.
I completely agree, and that's why it says find ways. But I think
your kid's going to be a narcissistic drug addict,
right?
Grows up.
Just being because it's hard. You're right, because these people are probably you hit them in the feels even when you hit them with facts or stats. They don't want to hear that.
A lot of them are products of helicopter parenting.
Mm-hmm. So they probably don't even know that they're doing it. They think it's the way, and your way is probably wrong. But trying to find ways to say, look, it's not always the best thing to keep them away from this. Like, however, the best way to go approach that is.
Well, I think helicopter parenting is going to be the closest thing to like politics and things to avoid in a conversation.
You're probably right.
Friends with people.
You're probably right.
Because you don't want to go there. I mean, like, you see fight after fight. It's like, don't tell me how to parent.
Well, and helicopter's probably the closest one to being hard to fight because
I don't think you address it. I think you stay in your own lane and you don't address it to another person. That's unless you're best friends with that person,
right?
Or their psychiatrist,
and that could end that friendship. I mean, it's that serious of a thing.
Yeah, I don't think you get there without coming off as overbearing yourself.
Yeah, it would be tough. I mean, it's never your place to step in.
No,
it's hard when you know that kid.
Drop pamphlets on the ground.
Yeah,
helicopter parenting. That's what it is.
Throw it like that. Yeah. Oh yeah, drop. I mean, I don't know. I feel like knowing about it would make it easier because you could go, wow, I do that, and being able to sit there and reflect on yourself to make sure you don't do it.
Right.
Because it is tough. We want the best for our kids. I mean, that's...
When it's getting easier and easier, going back to the 30s and 20s thing, our parents had multiple siblings. I only had one other sibling, but we're really considering only having the one. That's normal now.
Yeah.
But our grandparents were like my grandmother was like one of like 13 or something.
Oh yeah, family sizes have shrunk and ages for having them way down.
So all that concentration and protection or want to protect is concentrated on that one. Yeah. You at least have the two, and I like I said, I can't say that I'm leaning either way right now, but we'll figure it out when we get there. But I definitely see the merits in having multiple children to avoid this situation. And where were we talking about after that?
Well, you're talking about kids in their ages. There's certain with the ages, everybody, grandparents having large families, these short families.
Like it's just getting easier to helicopter parent one or two children because you have a growing amount. I remember friends in school that having a friend that was an only child was relatively rare. I don't think that's the case anymore. I would
totally. I dated a girl for quite a while in high school that was an only child, and I mean she had very, very good parents, very loving parents. Her dad just recently passed away, but she was so much a daddy's girl. Like, I mean, her dad he owned a body shop, and like. It's not like they were rich by any means, but like if she ever wanted anything, she knew like a smile and a hug would get her anything she wanted. And, I guess at some points you get jealous of that, but then you get grounded again and you realize like, in the long run, that's not for the best. I mean, she turned out great, but I'm just saying that it could go the other way quickly.
I mean, the implementation of helicopter parenting and the way that society's been going with it is, but these kids are the ones that need the safe space. Once they get out on their own, they're the ones that need their safe spaces. They're, days off for mental health. Yeah. Things like that. I'm not saying that's a terrible thing, but it's not something that previous generations have ever dealt with.
Well, I think mental fortitude is something that is underrated, at least now.
Yeah, well, they don't have to deal with conflict in that situation. They're not dealing with the conflict. Their parents are shouldering those conflicts, which adds extra stress on that parent and alleviates the child's.
Well, and that drives that wedge
especially
too.
If it's a norm.
Well, it drives that wedge because you think about if a kid did come from a non-helicoptered background and they have any kind of confrontation, the helicoptered kid, is going to see that as such an attack, an aggressive, and they don't see it as something that can be talked out or discussed. They just see it as you coming on them because they've never had to deal with it.
Yeah, there's nobody there to save them.
Yeah,
it's an attack, and they're backed into a corner. All that stuff.
I mean, by no means are we condoning fighting. It's not. That's not what it's about.
This is like a literal like what a helicoptered kid would describe as like a workplace bully. Like somebody that's constantly like riding them per se, like a freaking like a manager. It keeps wanting production, exactly. Wanting time. When they're late, they get held accountable for it, or not necessarily docked and pay, but like they're constant feeling berated when it's really just a corporate structure taking hold and somebody implementing the roles. But late isn't acceptable. Oh wait, I don't understand that.
To me, it's even more scary because these are the future leaders of the country in whatever aspect that is. I'm not necessarily saying like government, but it could be leaders of organizations or teams, whatever it is.
Well, that's
how do you get to that, and how do you make progress if you can't?
I don't think you do. I think the leaders are the Divergent Kids. We're not by all means saying that everybody's been helicopter parented.
Right. No.
So the Divergent, which used to be the norms, like everybody comes out with not everybody, but most people come out with like a strong work ethic and they find their way in whatever way. But the divergent ones are the ones that are going to lead the other ones, but just going to breed conflict.
Yeah.
Right, which is what we're saying, and then you need a safe space. Because you feel like you've been bullied in the workplace or somebody's holding you accountable and you don't know how to deal with it anymore.
Well, that's a con we didn't really talk about then. It's possible too that they're kind of left behind. They don't move up the chain wherever
the key ages for that acceptable development. So your job as a parent is to make your child acceptable to other kids, more or less, so they can be socialized, right? So the key ages for that is 2 to 4. If they don't hit that from 2 to 4, they'll be left behind more or less from then on. And that social awkwardness, if you will, rarely catches up, per Jordan Peterson. I found that I was like, huh.
Well,
true story. Because think of anybody that you've ever known was like a couple steps behind you in the whole social interaction.
No, I agree with you. And whether you homeschool, send your kid to private school, public school, you still have to make sure that they're socialized and that they're socialized in an environment that's conducive to socialization, you
have to make them you have to make your kid somebody that somebody else wants to hang out with, right?
Sure.
Or they don't have friends and they're left behind.
While at the same time letting them breed their own personality through and not...
Right. You don't do anything that would make you hate.
Right, you just know that, if your kid's got a propensity for biting people, you stop that behavior.
Our ultimate jobs as parents is to be proxies of the social environment, right? So...
Yes.
Now, we're graceful and or merciful versions of a proxy to the environment, but you have to know that there's consequences when you do things outside in the world. There's when things are late, when things aren't done when they're supposed to be done, when things aren't done that are that have been tasked.
Sure.
They have to know that there's a consequence for that, or behaviors that aren't acceptable, there's a consequence for that. Things like that. If there's not, that kid is not learning real life. Like, you are the social environment. Like, we're supposed to reflect the way the world's going to treat our kids. Naturally, we're more protective than that, but you still have to get them ready in that form.
Right, you still have to be that baseline.
Yeah.
Or else they'll never make it. So
my fear for myself in reading over helicopter parenting is I'm a catcher. I've talked to you with that. Like, when I see my child doing something and I can see pain coming her way, whether it's running on concrete, climbing up something, or about to go down the slide backwards or sideways or something like that, I close the distance, I let it happen, and I catch.
Right, just before the pain.
Now,
I don't think that's wrong, though. I mean, you're not saying that
decide.
I think there's a limit to it. Maybe there are times when you probably could let it happen.
I let skin knees happen.
Right.
We let skin knees happen. But, like, for instance, the other day I told you there was a moment at a restaurant the other day where I didn't want to decline your wife. When I was like, no, probably shouldn't do that. I would never decline your wife.
And I'm back. I appreciate it. I did, though. Sorry, Lance.
Reagan was running, not running around, but going back and forth to me and my wife. She dropped something that she had. She went down to pick it up. I saw that the head was, when she stood up, she was going to hit her head on the table. Like it was a wooden table. And I just grabbed the side of the table. I grabbed the side of the table. Her head hit my hand, and then me and my wife had a conversation after that. And I was like, should I let that happen? It goes way back to when we went to like a corn maze petting zoo place, and they had those slides that were in those tubes. You know what I mean? Slide tube. Those big drain tubes.
Okay.
They make slides out of them.
Like the corrugated.
Yeah. And this was like, she was single-digit months old when we took her there, and we had just gotten our GoPro, so I was filming her, and we went down one of those tube slides together, and I filmed her face. When I saw that video, because I got back down and I watched my child's face as we went down this tube, she was sitting on my lap and her eyes got really big and she was freaked out, and it killed me. Yeah. I can't explain. I remember thinking then, I was like, I'm going to have to really watch how I am, because like I had to walk away. My mom was in town. My mom was there. My wife was there. I had to walk away for a second and get my composure back.
Gather yourself.
Because the fact that child felt unsafe while
with
me hurt really bad. And I knew then that I was like, I'm going to have to watch it, because I'm going to want to keep that from happening. And I can't always do that.
Now with me and my wife, we're pretty much on the same page, but she is a little bit more overbearing with the kids than I am. But normally when I
kind of... Is she going to watch that? Is she going to watch this?
I don't know. She might. She's going to see what you said.
I have Overbearing Mother. It says Lindsay Mountain.
I didn't write. It's not my handwriting. So no, but it's to the point where like if I kind of am like, hey, Linz, just let it happen. Like Branson will be messing with the dog. Like he'll be running with a blanket and Moose is chasing him. And Moose, he's a boxer. He's a jumper.
Yeah.
And it's inevitable he's going to jump on Branson and knock him down. And I'm like, let it happen. Because when he falls down and he starts crying, as long as he's not real bad hurt, he's going to come over to us. And my answer is going to be, well, don't do that again.
Right.
And that's kind of where I go with it. Just like you're talking, to a point, I will let them get hurt. Even physically.
But superficially. Right?
Yeah. I'm
you
not
see a broken leg coming.
No, yeah. If you see something, a corner of a table, even to someone as young as Reagan, I mean, that's dangerous stuff.
I don't know.
That's dangerous stuff.
It's one thing that it's weird because I'm proud of it and feel like I'm trying to be cautious of it at the same time.
I
feel like I prevent some things sometimes because I can see something happening and close the distance a little quicker.
Well, here's the thing. She's got plenty of time to get hurt. And if she grows up thinking that the table doesn't hurt her head, she's going to try and impress a friend at a party and learn real quick that, that's not how it works. You might get a phone call. So I don't know. I think we're both heading down the right path. I mean, at least I feel I am. I feel like I don't I know there are always things we need to work on, but I think that I don't overbearingly parent my kids, but I'm always learning, from other people or just experience in general.
Well, I'm fearful that, trying to get her to solve her own problems is going to be tough because we might be in the minority in those situations from what I see. There's a problem with a coach or a teacher or something like that, and I'm going to try to let her shoulder that burden.
Sure.
Or with a classmate, will let her shoulder that burden, or are they going to let you? Because especially as if the other one took it to a principal or the other one took it to somebody else, are they going to let you? Are they going to want to mediate that through a parent? Or are they going to let your child?
I think just keep an open communication with your kids. That's what we try to do. We always try to make sure Maddie knows that, no matter what happens at school or at church or whatever, you can always come home and tell us. And we try to gauge our reaction to let her know that it was okay. Even if it's something that we're unhappy about, you have to take it in a way that she's going to come to you again and again and again and be able to, offer solutions that don't take her completely out of the equation. She needs to make up her own mind. So that's kind of where we go with it. But,
you have to kind of embrace the fact that they are going to make some of the same mistakes you made, in that killing the thought before it happens is not necessarily the best idea.
They won't never learn, if you don't let them fail. So
They won't never
you're doing that again.
learn.
Error. I don't talk good sometimes. Okay, even that was wrong. So if we're just doing helicopter parents, man, that's about all I have. I think we've covered it well.
Covered it pretty good.
And I think we need to hit up at least maybe the counter to that, or some other parenting styles, and bounce those off.
I think we'll try to hit the extremes first, like the not to do ones first, maybe kind of not to do ones, the dangerous ones.
Is that subjective?
You're right. The ones we more or less disagree with, or trying to stay away from ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we'll go back to things that we are trying to emulate.
Sure. We can do it.
Yep.
Feel good?
I feel great.
Well, we can sign off then.
Yep.
We thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Are you going to say bye to your kid?
Oh,
God.
Real quick. Maddie, I love you. Branson, love you too. Lindsay, sorry he talked junk about you. I do love you.
Reagan, I love you. You are 1.5 a couple of days ago, so that's been fun.
Tables hurt, Reagan.
Tables hurt. Daddy's going to try to stop it.
We'll see you next time.